Hi everyone, and welcome to my table for this week's table talk. Our scripture for this week comes from Deuteronomy, the 5th chapter, verse 17. Neither shall you commit adultery. And this is the 7th commandment that we're looking at. This Advent season of preparation is quickly coming to a close this week, and soon it's going to be Christmas. As we hustle and bustle these last few days of Advent, let's be extra careful to make sure that we are intentionally taking time to breathe, to be, and to turn our attention to God. I pray that you had opportunities within the past week to use your words to build people up rather than destroy. Today we turn to this 7th commandment, do not commit adultery, and I think for many of us it feels like this commandment doesn't apply. We've said that a few times while looking at the commandments, haven't we? Some of us may be in very committed and loving relationships where adultery doesn't cross our minds, and some of us may be single, so it seems like it doesn't apply. Some of us may have regretfully broken this commandment in the past, and we have sworn that we are never going to travel that road again. Regardless of our relationship circumstances on this day, we can once again dig deeper with this commandment and consider the spirit of the law to see how this commandment can be meaningful to us right now in the midst of the end of the Advent season. I want to remind us that the spirit of the law is love, and that the law speaks about our relationships with God and with one another. So as I consider this commandment close to Christmas, I find myself being reminded of how in the Old Testament, God uses the metaphor of adultery in his relationship with the Israelites. Though I might not be guilty of committing adultery against Russ, I wonder in what ways I might be committing adultery against my God. Recently, I was reminding my children that what we consume feeds us, and it can feed us in a good way or in a not so good way. I explained that we know what we eat makes a difference in our overall health. Fruits and vegetables and protein and lots of good fiber versus sugary foods that have little or no nutritional value. But food isn't the only thing that we consume or take in. We also consume things with our eyes, with our ears, and what we consume with our eyes and our ears feeds our hearts, our minds, and our souls. So I asked them if they remembered singing the song, "Be Careful Little Eyes What You See." If you've never come across this, I encourage you to look it up. It's a cute little song. The first verse says, "Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. For the Father up above is looking down in love. So be careful, little eyes, what you see." The verses of the song go on to say, "Be careful, little ears, what you hear, and be careful, little feet, where we tread." What we take in and what we consume really matters in our lives, and where we choose to walk or tread also matters. As we celebrate the birth of Christ, it's really easy to take in a lot that has absolutely nothing to do with Jesus and his birth. It's easy to get wrapped up in nostalgia and magic and a false sense of happiness that is related to stuff. It's easy to turn away from the rough, messy manger, to turn our backs to Christ as we look at the shiny and the new and get really just too busy with things. And then we commit adultery against our God. We chase after and worship things and ideas that have nothing to do with Jesus. I shared with the adult Sunday school class this past week that several years ago, probably when Mabel was like a toddler, I was leading an Advent study that challenged us to consider how we can intentionally include Jesus in our Christmas celebrations and family traditions. There are 2 traditions that our family now has because during that study I slowed down to consider how to make sure that Jesus is our focus. One is that Santa brings only 3 presents to each of my children to help us remember that Jesus was given 3 gifts by the wise men. The other is that right now, Jesus isn't in our nativity scene manger. He's in a little gift box, and that gift box will be placed in our Christmas tree, and on Christmas morning, the children will look to find Jesus in the tree. Whoever finds his little gift box will then place him in the manger. The children get really excited about this tradition, and oftentimes whoever finds him jumps up and down as they exclaim, "I found Jesus!" And it's a beautiful reminder for us to keep seeking Jesus. This Christmas, and really all year long, let us be mindful of what we are feeding ourselves. When we feast upon Scripture, when we drink up listening to God in prayer, when we tread in paths of righteousness, Christmas is full of promises, full of the holy and full of joy. And when we daily consume the things of God, we do a better job relying on the one who conquers sin, and therefore being faithful in our relationships with one another and also in our relationship with the divine. So let's look for opportunities to include Jesus in our Christmas celebrations and also in our daily lives in meaningful ways. I look forward to seeing you next week around the table, and I hope that you all have a blessed Christmas where you experience Emmanuel, God with us.